welcome to another jewelry making video brought to you by keepsakecrafts.net. Today we're going to be making this bracelet using semi-precious stones and copper beads. It's a simple design, but the details make it special. Today I thought I would start off by showing you how most of the jewelry designs you see here get started. And it's with this very high-tech gadget. Kidding. It's a shoebox lid. I love using this to gather together all of the components I think I'm going to need in the piece of jewelry I have in mind, because obviously it has the sides so I don't lose things, but also the background is white so I can lay out bits and pieces and really get an idea of how they look. And then if I don't get to the project right away, everything I want to do is all corralled together. So there's a tip for you that I hope you find helpful. So to make this bracelet you will need, first of all, some beads, and right here I have Blue Sky Jasper 12mm roundels. You'll need, I have 34 of these and I want a total of 37 beads, so I've also added in these 3 copper beads which are the same width as my Blue Sky Jasper plus the width of 2 spacers, and you'll see why that matters later. You'll also need some spacer beads. You'll need some larger spacers. These are 6x4mm. You'll need 5 of those, and then you'll need some smaller ones. These are 5x2mm daisy spacers, and these are all copper. You'll need, to finish your bracelet, 6 each of crimps, crimp covers, and wire protectors. I didn't have these in copper, so I'm going with the gold-plated and antique gold-plated, and I'm not going to worry about mixing the metals. You'll need 2 jump rings, a clasp, a bit of chain, and a head pin. And then for tools you'll need round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, crimping pliers, wire cutters, and you'll need some wire to string your beads on. This is slightly heavier. It's 0.48mm diameter wire because these are stones, so the weight adds up and we wouldn't want to lose anything. And then also these little gadgets are wonderful. They're called bead bugs, but they're just little springs with handles that clamp onto your stringing wire so you don't lose anything you've strung, in case you're a klutz like me. So the first thing you'll need to do is cut 3 10-inch strands of your bead stringing wire. So once we have all 3 of our pieces cut, we're going to attach them all to what will be one end of our bracelet. We're going to start doing that by sliding on a crimp, and let me zoom in a little for you here. So I just slid on a crimp, and then I'm going to go into my wire protector, and it's a little horseshoe shaped thing. Keeps the wire from rubbing on whatever it's on. It also, if you're attaching this to jump rings like we are today, it'll keep you from your wire from slipping through the jump ring because it's a little thicker. And then I'm going to pop the jump ring right into that U part of the horseshoe. I'm going to slide that short end back through the crimp. And don't slide it all the way up to the wire protector. Leave a little slack because you need room for your crimp cover. And I actually prefer to use pliers to flatten my crimps. I know lots of people have plenty of luck with the crimping pliers. I don't. So I'm going to just squash that good. And always, always, always check. Give it a tug. Sometimes it doesn't grab. And notice how the 2 wires are parallel inside that crimp. And then you can trim this off right here. If your crimp isn't going to hold, no amount of extra tail is going to serve as security. So you can just trim that off as long as you know it's tight. And then you probably wondered, I told you to have crimping pliers, but I didn't use them for the crimps. I actually use them for the crimp covers. I just put it right in the jaws, the rounded part, and it holds it beautifully. And then I can put that right over my crimp. Squeeze gently. Be gentle because it's easy to misshape these. And then you can take a minute to make your bead nice and round. And now it looks, well, and now it looks like a bead, but it's covering that crimp. The last step is you can use pliers or your fingers to just close up that wire protector a little bit, so it's more of a teardrop than a horseshoe shape. And repeat to add both of your other wires to this same jump ring. So now you can see I've got all 3 strands attached to a single jump ring, and it's time to start stringing our bracelet. So we're going to start with one of our 6x4mm spacers, and then we'll do a pattern of your jasper beads and a small spacer, 5x2. And we'll just alternate these until we have 4 jasper beads and 3 small spacers. And then we're going to add one more of our 6x4 spacers. Repeat this pattern until you have 3 sets of 4 beads spaced between 4 of the larger spacers. So now I've strung my first strand of beads, and this would actually be a very pretty bracelet all by itself. But we're going to make it even more special. Notice I've attached my little clamp on the end to prevent klutzy disasters. So now the next step is all the strands will pass through these large spacers. So start there. And now we're going to repeat the pattern by adding 4 beads separated by daisy spacers. And it never ceases to amaze me how much these little tiny daisy spacers fancy something up. They just make it, I guess they give it a little bit of sparkle and interest and contrast. And I love the copper with these blue sky jasper beads. And I love the name of these beads. I just like saying that. Blue sky jasper. So after you've done your first set of 4, now we're just going to pass the wire through the 6x4mm spacer on the first strand. So then just repeat. Add 4 more beads with spacers, go through this larger spacer, 4 more beads with spacers, go through this larger spacer. So here you can see I've got 2 strands strung. And now I want to talk about something I often make a point of saying, and that is that challenges in your work, finding the solutions to those challenges, often results in a better and more interesting final product than if you didn't have the challenge. And here's an example. I have this strand of these sky blue jasper beads, and I only had 34. Now obviously for a triple strand bracelet I needed a number that was divisible by 3, and also I wanted an extra for a dangle, so I needed 37 beads, but I only had 34. So then I got the idea to take some of my copper beads that I have in an assortment and add those in place of one of each of the sets of beads. And I think that will make it far more interesting. So that's what I'm going to do. Just like before, we take our strand through the large spacer bead and then go ahead and proceed to string. Now this is why I had mentioned earlier having beads that were as wide as your main beads or as wide as the main beads plus 2 spacers. All of these are, so I'm going to skip the spacers in between these beads. Since we're doing clusters, it is sort of important to have them the same length. So we'll substitute that bead for a jasper bead and the 2 spacers on either side of it. So there we go. So I think having these copper beads in there is even more interesting than just having all the jasper beads. I think it just gives kind of a focal point and a lot of interest, especially where they're all different. So you just carry on the same way. Now that all 3 of my strands are strung, I just want to take a minute and pull on each of these strands of wire Just snug it up. You certainly don't want your bracelet to be too tight, but because of the chunkiness of all the beads, it can tend to be a little loose. So we will build some slack into this. You don't want it like this. This is much too stiff and it doesn't hang nicely. But just snug them up for now, and then we'll build some slack in as we finish. So I'm just going to clamp those down. And then the way we finish is the way you started. So you go ahead and add the crimp and the wire protector in the same way that we did to begin with. And just like we began with, slide the wire end back through the crimp. And this is where it gets a little tricky. You want to pull this snug, and you want to have a little less than 1/4 of an inch of slack. You'd be surprised at how much slack you actually need when you wear it, and it looks different when it's wrapped around your wrist than when it's flat. It takes up some of the slack as it curves. So there we go. That's just about right. And you can use chain nose pliers to flatten that crimp. Give it a good squeeze. Always test it before you trim off the excess wire. So repeat for each one, leaving just this amount of slack, just a smidge under 1/4 of an inch of slack in each one. Be double sure to check that your crimp is tight before you trim the wire, otherwise you will have to restring the whole thing at this point. So make sure it's tight, trim the wire, add your crimp cover like we did before, and repeat for all 3 strands. We're going to open our jump ring to add these. It's just much easier to do it that way. Alright, I have my other 3 ends finished, and now it's just a matter of adding a few things to the ends. So I'm going to start with a jump ring. Position the split at 12 o'clock, hold it with a pair of pliers, grab it on the other side with another pair of pliers, push one side away from you, twist the other towards you. And I'm going to slide on the loops of all 3 of these wire protectors and also our clasp. And then reverse the procedure to close the jump ring. Make sure you look at it from the side on the top and bottom so that you know for sure it's secure. And then the last step is to add this little bit of chain. One last little touch is on a head pin, string a daisy spacer, your last bead and your last large spacer, and we're just going to make a little dangle for the end of that chain. Grab right where the wire comes out of the last bead with chain nose pliers. Bend at a 90-degree angle, tuck in your round nose pliers, wrap around and over, reposition your round nose pliers, hold that loop with chain nose pliers, grab another pair of chain nose pliers, and wrap. Trim off the excess wire and tuck in that wire end. Now if you're wiring this onto a closed loop, then you'll have to put it over the loop before you finish your wraps. But I noticed that this is a jump ring here that I can open and pop that on. And so we open it the same way and put on our little dangle for a nice finishing touch. And there you have it. Here's another look at the bracelet we made today. I hope that this project has gotten you thinking about different beads that you've seen that you love that you would like to make into a bracelet like this. Have fun, be creative, and make yourself something beautiful. Thank you so much for watching Keepsake Crafts videos. Up on the screen are 2 more videos you might enjoy. Also, if you like this video, please click like and click subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos. Also, check out my blog, keepsakecrafts.net, where I have lots more crafting and sewing and jewelry making ideas and inspiration. Happy creating. Bye-bye.